Well, guys, I know a lot of you. I've worked with a lot of you. I've been part of Deal Makers. I'm going to say at least for the last, since it's almost started. How long have you been doing Deal Makers, Jim?
10 years.
10 years. All right, so maybe not since it started. I know I started with Quest in 2016, so.
Yeah, Deal Makers came in 2019.
Okay, bam. So I've been there since the beginning. Wah-ha. So most of you guys do know me from my self-directed IRA background. You know me, a lot of it is because of someone like my uncle, all right, Quincy Long, the guy who really helped found and start the self-directed IRA industry. So what that does is for someone like me is I get brought up in a family of not only real estate investors, but a lot of tax code. Super exciting. So I want to just try something that I've never actually tried before. So if everyone can do me a favor, and I promise it won't be that bad, if you can just stand up for 1 second. Everybody stand up.
Stand up.
All right, I need everyone to take one step to your right. All right, a step back to your left. Go ahead and have a seat. What happened was, my uncle taught me, right, and my dad taught me that if I want to be a good public speaker, I need to find a way to move my audience. So there you go. All right, guys, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about mineral rights and why it's actually a very safe investment for your real estate style transactions that you have all kind of been looking at. However, if I'm up here to talk to you about mineral rights, you would think that I'm an oil and gas expert. Would you agree? Meh, I'm not. All right, so I am not the expert in oil and gas. So just in case, I actually brought along Chris Allen. Chris, you want to raise your hand real quick? That is a true expert in oil and gas. You want to talk about someone with an engineer mindset that can break down to the nitty-gritty price per barrel of oil and stuff. That's the guy to talk to, not me. I am actually just like you guys. I'm actually an investor. And what ended up happening back in early or late 2023 is I started to take a career change. Most of you guys know that I used to work with Quest Trust Company, which I no longer work there. I now actually work and live a lot off of my passive investments that I have. I have 6 rentals. At any point in time, I have 7 or 8 promissory notes that comes out. And then I have a lot of money also invested in mineral rights. So I want to stress to everybody that my expertise is truly in the self-directed IRA field. Along with working with Eckert Enterprises, I also get to work with a company called Protect Your Wealth, right, which pretty much deals in asset protection. They have a series of attorneys and CPAs, and I get to advise them on self-directed IRA knowledge. I also work with Think Realty on a government relations committee, right, where I get to speak at Congress every quarter on retirement accounts. So that is what my real expertise comes in, for all you guys. But me being an investor, I think it's fair that I get to show you how I do my investments, because working at Quest, I got to see behind the scenes. And when I saw behind the scenes of all of your guys' investments, I had an unfair advantage. I get to see all the good ones. I get to see all the bad ones. A lot of you guys have called on me when you guys make mistakes, and I got to try to figure out how to unwind something, right? And we try to figure out how to do that with a self-directed IRA sometimes. So let's figure out what I've seen, what I haven't seen, and where investments seem to go good and bad. So we'll start off with there's a couple different ways to invest in oil and gas. One is called working interest. The other one is mineral rights. Pretty simple so far. Now, has anyone out there ever heard that investing in oil and gas can be very dangerous or risky or something along those lines? Anyone? Actually, I got a bunch of hands. Tom Olson over there raising his hand high. Love it. But do you know why he's heard that? It's because he's always heard of working interest. Working interest is very high risk, high reward. Right? So the more risk I'm willing to take on, the more reward I'm going to get. But this also means that you could get, because it's very risky, you get large tax deductions along the way. The most common way to invest in oil and gas, and lastly, you have capital calls. Anyone been stuck in a deal where you have a capital call? Probably. It's a lot of those multifamily storage units, senior living facilities, a lot of capital calls out there, and working interest falls into this category. That is not what we are talking about today. We are strictly talking about the mineral rights side, which is very low risk, and we'll explain and show why. Mineral owners have real ownership. If you are a true mineral right owner, you are investing in real estate. You'll have a deeded piece of land, technically, that is deeded over to you that you get a check from every single month with zero chance of a capital call. So I like that. So we're going to go ahead and figure out what that is. Now, if I'm thinking about real estate in general, there's a bunch of different ways to invest in real estate. You guys have all seen a lot of it here. Love my coffee. Right? We got our residentials, our commercials, our multifamily, short-term rentals, and self-storage, and then I'm going to keep talking about the mineral rights side. But we've all seen these. We've seen people present in each one of these categories right here. So what are some of the costs of owning any one of these assets? Right? Well, costs is, if we just think about any of them, we have our property taxes. We have our insurance. We have HOA fees. We have all sorts of other things that could be just basic repairs. And we've all had to experience this with all of these type of investments. What about legal cost? What about liability? What do you think mineral rights have as far as those type of things go when it comes to cost of owning a mineral right? Boom, who said it? Raise your hand. You're good in the back. Keith, is that you? See, my eyes aren't that bad. Zero. If you're a true mineral right owner, you have to understand that you have zero management fees, zero repairs, zero insurance, zero capital calls, zero property taxes, zero cost for owning a mineral right. I like this. I like knowing that I can invest in an asset and have zero chances of owning anything else in the future. So let's also figure out then what is a mineral right. As real estate investors, we get really hung up on, if I press this button, does that work as a laser? Nope, it does not. Uh-oh. All right, so we get really hung up on this top piece of land that you can see up here. And this is the surface right. This is where you build a house. This is where you go and you rent it out. This is what we all think of as a real estate investor. But a mineral right owner owns everything below the surface, all the way to the core of the earth. So if I can know that I can buy 1 acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, but it goes not just from there, but all the way down, that's what I want. I'm actually getting more bang for my buck. So if I'm not owning the surface rights, the state doesn't charge you property taxes. If I don't own surface rights, I don't have any liability. If I don't own surface rights, I don't have to carry insurance. All those things are very unique when we think about being a mineral right owner. So why do we want these? It's because mineral rights are, as I've stated multiple times, real property. So when I say real property, I can do a 1031 exchange into owning minerals. Who knows what a 1031 is? Right here in the front, what is it?
It's in IRS language, it's called like-for-like exchange.
I like it, a like-for-like exchange, right? 1031 is actually just the part of the revenue code that it falls under, right? Whether it's 121 or 1031, both the same thing. Right? But it's you exchanging an asset for another type of similar asset. So I can sell a single family home, and when I sell it, I can avoid the taxes by rolling those gains straight into mineral right ownership. You have zero exploration cost. I can't stress enough, capital calls, zero on those. But honestly, mineral rights are the most passive form of income. So now we're going to figure out how we can get paid on the mineral side of things. So what does an investment look like? Who thinks this is what mineral rights look like if you are investing in oil and gas? Because it's not. This is what I thought originally when I was thinking, I'm going to invest in oil and gas because there is a future for it. There is a way to get paid on this stuff. This is working interest. This is that risky stuff. Instead, these will be your tenants, and they're going to pay me every single month. So what does a real investment look like? It actually looks more like something like this. Every one of you will be given a package. And when you get given a mineral right package, assuming you're not investing into a fund or you're not investing into something like that, remember, you want to have real ownership of it, your package will look something like this. And I mean, everyone's going to be slightly different. But first thing that you want to go ahead and point out is right here in this specific package, there's 39 producing wells. What do I mean by that? Anyone? They're pumping oil. They're pumping gas. That's right. So before you even buy a mineral right, you want to be looking at buying a mineral right that has wells already producing on them. Why? This means that instantly you start to receive a monthly check. Before you've even purchased it, you know you're going to get paid. If you ever hear terms in the oil and gas industry like drilling a dry hole or anything along those lines, those are the scary topics. Those are the scary things that kind of go about. So I want to know that if I'm going to invest my hard-earned dollars into something that there is already oil there, and you can see this by the producing wells. But that's not the exciting part. If you notice, there is 8 wells on here in this specific package that are drilled and uncompleted, meaning they haven't started pumping oil yet. Means they have to be turned on. So if they have to be turned on, why haven't they been turned on yet? No need to. Sometimes it could be due to commodity prices. Sometimes it could be due to just, regulatory things. Sometimes they're just waiting for a spike where we need to go ahead and actually get some oil and gas out into the community. So knowing this, when they turn on one of these wells, these 8 wells will actually, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, produce more oil and gas at first than the 39 producing wells. Why do you think the 8 wells produce more than the 39? I like that you said pressure, and that's a good way to think about it because they are brand new. The 8 wells that you're looking at up there are not what I like to call vintage wells. It's like buying a brand new car. Your brand new car is obviously going to last longer. It's going to have the best equipment. It's going to be able to produce the most because it is brand new. In addition to the 8 wells, you also get something that's 13 wells permitted, right? That there's a permit at the state that they're going to be, hey, we're going to be adding more wells to your investment packages as well. Now, as we go through this, we can see, and this is just one, this is, I don't even know what package this is. Oh, this is wild turkey. So this was one that was right around Christmas time. But this one had 47 wells in total in it. Now, out of those 47 wells that were there, right, we know that they're going to be producing. We know there's new ones coming on. So I want to know, what am I getting paid? How much am I getting paid? Right? Makes sense. And how much am I buying this for? Now, if I said that you could make anywhere between a 10% all the way up to 100% ROI on your funds, how much do you think 1 acre of this would cost? $50,000. I like your thinking. What if I told you it's only about $12,000, maybe $12,500 per acre in this package? And you can buy an acre, then why doesn't everyone do it? Why don't all you guys own mineral rights then? I like it. So I've heard a couple things. I got the fear. I got the I don't know, right? This is my first time hearing about it. You want to know the real reason, though? There's only 500 acres available. Look at that. There is only 513 acres available, and this package was about $12,000 a piece. I just told you that you could go ahead and make, let's just go on a low one and say 1% a month on that. So why wouldn't you go and just take $1 million and go ahead and say, you know what, I'll just buy that whole package myself? That's what happens. So until recently, no one in this room has actually ever been able to purchase minerals on an individual basis and have this type of knowledge available. So I got spoiled. I got lucky. Working at Quest, I get to see once again behind the scenes. So I go and I look at some of the largest accounts that Quest has. Where do you think they have all their money? Interesting. Well, who is that Eckerd company? Let's call up those guys, see what they're doing. And sure enough, what they would be going through is they would buy 500 acres all at one time and they write a check. They write a check for the 5, 10, 15, 20, $50 million in some cases and buy a whole mineral package first. Then they keep them for themselves. And if you guys would like to buy a handful of acres, they will sell them to you. And that's it. So you can't use debt to buy minerals. You don't have time to raise capital to buy a mineral package. You have to buy them the minute they're available. So they have been very rare until Eckerd Enterprises developed a way to just buy them and they sell them back to you guys. If you guys don't buy them, they don't care. They don't need anyone's capital in here because all the minerals are already producing. All the minerals, as they're producing income to you guys, you receive a monthly check, they receive a monthly check. They have just as much risk involved in any one of these transactions as you do, if not more. So, the next question I typically get was, well, Derreck, I see you said there's 500 acres. What happens if they're not pulling oil out of the ground on my acre? I think that's a fair question. That's no longer an issue. And this comes down to something labeled as horizontal drilling. Back in the early 2000s, they would do something called vertical drilling. By the way, I'm not the oil and gas expert. That guy is. Okay? But when they would do vertical drilling, they would drill straight down and hope they hit oil. They no longer do that. If they're going to be drilling for oil, they're going to drill straight down and they're going to go to the right. They're going to go to the left. They're going to go up, down, and they're going to go miles and miles and miles until they get the oil that they need. So because of this, can you imagine right now that if you bought minerals right here, but because they're not drilling on your land, you couldn't get paid? Because they're pulling oil from 10, 15 miles down the road? That wouldn't be fair. So these packages, a lot of times they have what they call a pooling aspect. So it doesn't matter whether you own acre A or acre Z, we all get paid the same amount. Doesn't matter. I like that aspect. I like this thought process knowing that now I can buy an asset. It's a low cost of entry, right? I can get paid every single month, and my tenants are actually the big oil companies, the ones that are drilling for the oil. So name one asset that can compare in that class. There isn't one. There's not a single one asset, and I could care less what anyone thinks or says, but I'm telling you, there's not one out there. So you can get cash flow for 25 to 50 years on any mineral acre you purchase. On every single mineral acre you purchase, you can get the cash flow for up to 25 to 50 years. So I always like to think, though, I'm more of an IRS revenue guy. Remember, I grew up reading code. I grew up not really reading code. I grew up more as a dork. Man, I was a dork in school, let me tell you. But working with Quest, working with my Uncle Quincy, working with my dad, working with a lot of you guys as investors, I actually had to spend a lot of time reading revenue code and reading a lot of other court cases or publications. So I like statistics, I like numbers. So I put just some that I actually found out as of today was, first off, the US alone produces 13 million barrels of oil every single day. You all have Google on your phone, so fact check me. Notice we consume 22 million barrels of oil every single day. There is no way we can produce enough oil out there. All right, next, there is certain investments out there like the Permian Basin, which is really in West Texas, where there is estimated to be between 25 million and 50 million barrels of oil per acre in the ground. Per acre. That's a lot, right? Warren Buffett, everyone knows who Warren Buffett is, right? Recently purchased $245.7 million worth of oil stock, taking full control over a specific oil company. Why do you think he did that? Is it because oil and gas is going away? I don't think so. And every piece of plastic, clothing, paint, etc. that is in this room today is produced by oil and gas. And that was something that I didn't understand coming actually into this. I used to think when someone said, I'm going to invest in oil and gas, what do you guys think? Gasoline. That's right. I think it's straight to my car. That is such a small aspect of the real oil and gas industry. When you think of how much plastic we go through, just the rubber that we use, creating leather. It's no longer leather from the cows, guys. That's all created using oil and gas. A lot of times people ask me, well, Derreck, what happens about this green energy movement? Please, bring it on. There is no way we can produce enough oil and gas, all right, and to subsidize the energy that all of us need. Every single day as a society, we are using more and more energy collectively. Knowing we're using more and more energy, we need to find new ways to create it. But as of right now, oil and gas makes up more than 85% of all the energy that we consume. That's more than the wind, solar, hydro aspects all combined. That's nuts. Lastly, when we think of these acres that you actually are able to purchase at a very reasonably priced, that you get paid instantly on, you have to understand that these acres they're disappearing. Notice when I went over that slide earlier, there was only 500 acres left in that one, and those are long gone. Once all the mineral rights are physically purchased up, you have to wait for someone else to sell them. You don't just buy minerals anywhere. You don't just buy mineral rights in like Phoenix, Arizona or something like that. There's no oil out there. Otherwise, that's where the oil companies would be. So you have to figure out, I want to buy a mineral right. I want to put my money someplace where I know it can be producing on an annual basis, daily basis, monthly basis. and I want to know that I'm going to get paid. So when I chose to work with Eckerd, it was funny. I did my first investment with Eckerd actually April of 2020. Weird time to be an investor. It really was, all right? And just especially to change asset classes. But I actually like some of the statistics they have. So I put some of these up here. Chris, I hope I don't embarrass you too much. But $55 million in payouts in the last year alone to every single investor in the last year alone. Anyone who purchased any of the mineral rights from Eckerd received up to $55 million. Over $5 million was in self-directed IRAs in the last 3 weeks alone. You know how I know that? Quincy, are you in here? Hi, Quincy. What was the first thing you said to me when we saw each other here? Hi, Derreck. Thanks. Thanks, Uncle Q. He said, man, last week alone, Eckerd just gave us $5 million just in payouts to the clients that are using their self-directed IRAs. They have raised over $700 million. To put that in perspective, I want you to find me one other capital raiser that is on that level, because you won't. Your average capital raisers that have raised capital for things like note funds, multifamily, storage units, on average will be $20 million a year or less. Look at that number. That is insane. That is where people are putting their assets and putting their funds. They're the only company that can actually give you private ownership. Remember, if you're going to buy mineral rights, you have to buy them in bulk. You can't buy them on an individual level like that. You can't go forth and raise capital. No, when a contract is presented, you are closing in about a week or less. So that's a huge check that's coming out of someone's pocket. That's why Eckerd Enterprises has to buy the minerals first. Can you imagine? Who in here has invested in multifamily, storage units, senior living facilities, something like that? Love it. And this one's going to bite me in the butt, because I'm going to call them the 3 hardest people in the room. Tom, Mary, and Jeff. All right? Jeff Watson. I know you had a fantastic and successful multifamily investment you just did a couple months ago. When you were raising capital for it, how much capital did you raise and how much capital did you need from debt?
We raised, between debt and equity, we raised about $5 million.
Okay.
We took over debt of $6.5 million, and then we did some seller financing.
So
Total purchase price was $13 million.
$13 million, okay, and let's just go percentage-wise. Was that about 70% debt leveraged? Little less?
Less.
Little less?
Yeah, because I don't know.
No.
Keep asking questions.
You're okay. Mary, what about you?
I don't raise capital, I give capital.
All right, so any of the multifamily deals you invested in, what was the percentage of capital that was raised versus the percentage of capital that was leveraged?
Gosh, it's been years since I looked at that. I would say they probably raised 70%, maybe less. I don't know. I can't remember.
Tom?
We typically raise 30, leverage 70, or 60, 40.
Yeah, I might be backwards.
Yeah, then that's about right. It's usually about 30, 70, 60, 40, 80, 20. Those are the 3 most popular numbers. Those are 3 of the smartest people in this room, I can guarantee it, sitting over there. And they just told us about how when they raise capital for any of those syndications, they're using debt. You find me another company that is not using debt. That if you need capital, if you need to look at these investments, that it is 100% debt-free. Other advantages, which I just like to kind of talk, because this is really my expertise, comes down to self-directed IRAs. There is no UBIT because there's no debt. In addition, you get a monthly check. Eckerd Enterprises actually covers your self-directed IRA fees up to $500. There is no risk of prohibited transactions. Eckerd does your fair market values in your direction of investment forms, and you have the ability to liquidate. How many times have we been stuck in investment and you can't get out of it? There's a whole MLS program that allows you just to sell your mineral acres one at a time now. That, by the way, Eckerd developed. So let's look at some of these numbers. And this is where, Chris, I'm going to maybe have you come up if you want to grab the mic and kind of go over some of these with me, because this is, grab one of those mics, Chris. Don't be shy. He doesn't do public speaking, so catch. Wah-ha! All right, so what I have up here, and if anyone wants these slides, text, email me, call me. If I could zoom in, each one of these is a different investment that Eckerd would apply for a mineral right aspect. So knowing this, if I looked at this, assuming I bought 1 acre of every single one. How much was the wild turkey one, the one we went over? About 12,000. I've seen as cheap as 8,000. I've seen as expensive as 50,000 per acre. So if I bought 1 acre of each one of these, that would be my ROI. 15% rate of return. Chris, how many investments in acres do you own, or how many packages, I guess, have you put your funds into?
I just
throwing you on
passed
the spot, I'm sorry.
No problem. I've been invested with Eckerd for about 4 years, and I just surpassed on my 40th package. And annualized over that 4 years, I'm at 22% annualized return on my package.
20%?
22%.
22%.
Yep.
So
So each individual of these individual packages, as we go in, you'll have a certain ROI. But if you look here, we also added in the 0% packages. That's 14% annualized distribution over all packages, including 7.
You have packaging in here at 0%? Why are they at 0?
Because we just purchased them. They haven't gone into what we call pay status yet. So what in the oil and gas industry does is there's a lot of due diligence done by the oil producers. What they do is run title to make sure that who is the ownership. We call that an ownership deck. All right, and what they want to do, since they're responsible, fiduciary responsible for who they pay, they run about a 6-month ownership deck titles. And that's where these packages we have purchased, so they're not in pay status, and they're in that title due diligence period. But even with those zeros, we're still at 14, almost 15% annualized distributions out to our partners.
Now, I like to bring up this slide. This is something that I was trying to work on. I was trying to put some Excel sheets and stuff because, once again, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a revenue code guy. So up here, Chris, and this is really where I'm relying on you, I have 3 packages that have already paid out over 100%.
Yes, those 3 packages, the Ints, the Galvin, and the Mallard, is actually the oldest one. It was at 32 months.
So in 32 months, you received 100% of your capital, and how long do those investments still pay you?
Those particular investments will pay us for 20 to 50 years.
20 to 50 years, okay?
I'm actually in Galvin, so I'm pretty happy about that. When I started investing in oil and gas, it was being sold at negative $40 a barrel. I was cold called in 2019. It took me about 6 months of due diligence on Eckerd to actually write a check. Finally, after that 6 months, I talked to my wealth manager, and I said, I've got to talk to the CEO. I need to talk to the person who's in charge, because each and every one of you should do that in any of your investments. Make sure you talk to who is going to be managing your asset. So within 5 minutes of talking to Troy Eckerd, I had his social security number, I had his FINRA number, I had his personal cell phone number, his email address. He said, go do every background check you wanted to do. I wrote a check within 5 minutes. That's the type of fiduciary responsibility that Eckerd wants to put in there, and openness, so that you have security in knowledge that you have a energy professional, somebody that's transparent, and somebody that's fiduciary responsibility to your investment.
So I'm going to fly through some of this other stuff right here real quick, but if we look just through some of these other packages, right, we have ones that have paid in the 75% ROI. You have some that have paid in the 50% ROI and 25% ROI. So this is funny because I'll see people complain about the 25% ROI just because they're comparing it to those other ones, and it's like, come on, man. So I always think that's kind of funny. Now, we're going to skip this graph for a minute. I really want to spend a moment and talk about this being the most passive investment that people can ultimately own. If I could show you how to put $100,000 into something, and for 25 years or longer, you receive at least a 1% on a monthly basis ROI, would you do it? Absolutely you would. But there's 2 people in this room. There's 2 people in this room right now. One of them is absolutely a partner with me. There's people in this room right now that will want to be an investor and want to take this road with me and come on up and be an investor. You know who the other ones are? You guys are our clients. You guys are the ones using up the oil and gas and keep paying me my royalties. So thank you very much for that. So I really want to leave this open. I try to go very fast through all this information because I want all of you to ask me questions. It's why I really brought Chris here. It's why Nathan's also over there. Nathan worked at Exxon for 13 years? 12 years. Okay, that's close enough. Yep. Whereas once again, I'm the retirement guy. So this is where you guys come into play. I tried to fly through this presentation about 25 to 30 minutes, and Jim gave me an hour. But man, PowerPoints get boring. So what questions do you guys have? Is there another mic? There is another mic up here. Look at that. Someone raised their hand. Let's go. Bueller. Oh, I don't know how to turn this on. No. Boop, boop. There you go. What do you got?
Who owns the surface?
Who owns the surface? I have no idea, nor do I care. You don't have access most of the time, right? Most of the time, you do not have access to the surface rights strictly because, oh, thank you, Jim. You don't have access because it doesn't matter. So it's probably the oil company most likely that owns it. Am I wrong? Or is the oil company renting those out from somebody?
The surface owner will actually get what's called a surface lease. So the oil company will come in and pay what's a lease royalty to the surface owner, which can be anywhere between $10,000 out into the Permian Basin. We've actually seen them spend up to $100,000 for each surface lease. What that does is give them the right to come in and put their wells on that lease, right? And then on the surface, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Most of the time, the surface rights are severed from the mineral rights. So we don't actually buy the surface rights. So we buy whatever's underneath the ground there.
So
If that's a surface right owner. We just tried to buy some mineral rights from a gentleman that has 37,000 acres in the Permian Basin. He was just offered $2.6 billion by Exxon, and he turned them down.
now,
But that's because he has 100 million barrels of oil on every acre underneath that. The true value is about $11 billion. So he turned them down for 2 points. That'd been hard for me to do. I might have made a different
so
decision
to
there.
re-answer your question, who owns the surface rights? Oh. Next question. Man, look at it. Now we got some
All right,
hands. I like
I'm
it.
coming. I got the mic, Derek.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Who's got a question closest goes first? Both of you.
Boop, boop, boop.
So I don't know if it's like how he purchases, but if you have like individuals like in Ohio that do those mineral rights and they sell their house, how does that go? Can you get those mineral rights with them? Can you, with the house, can you purchase it?
So not
Does that make
typically in Texas or Oklahoma, okay? So that is very common in other states such as even here in Virginia or North Carolina. But usually mineral rights and surface rights are sold separately in most states, especially in the main states where there is oil and gas. So, and Chris, I'm still gonna rely on you for a lot of this. So look at this, I'm learning, I'm becoming smart, right? In Oklahoma, there's what they call the Anadarko Basin, which is actually one of the largest basins in the U.S. I think it's the second largest basin in the U.S. with oil reserves. This is why when you buy mineral rights, you typically want to buy mineral rights in the Anadarko Basin. Anyone want to guess where the second largest reserves is, or the first largest reserves is? Texas. Good try. It's actually in the Permian Basin, right? So in Texas, they have what is called the Permian Basin, which is a very, very deep, almost 5 times the size of the Anadarko.
Yep.
5 times the size of the Anadarko Basin, right? And it is very difficult to be a mineral right owner there. It's difficult because it is very rare to pick up packages. It's very rare to be able to buy that someone's going to release those minerals at any point in time. And as an example, when I was looking at that other package right there and we were going through it, we said it was $12,000 an acre. Typically, you're going to spend about 50 to 60 grand per acre in the Permian Basin. But it is at a much deeper rate. They pay at a way faster rate. You're going to make way more money if you can ever pick up stuff in the Permian. Yep. Hey, Chris, do you have any Permian packages?
Actually, Derek, we have the rock right now.
Oh, look at that.
We put in over 200 bids for mineral rights in the Permian Basin, and we've only been able to secure 3. We have a very tight buy box. We won't go outside of that buy box when we go in and do that. But the same acres that we just purchased in the Permian here just recently, Exxon paid $100,000 an acre for because they know how valuable it is. So they've gone in and actually purchased up, Pioneer. Y'all heard about, the $60 billion that Exxon just invested into the Permian Basin. So we were very lucky. The reputation that Eckerd has been able to make as a cash buyer, no contingencies, making sure that we're a very reputable company, secured that package for us. So we were very, very, very fortunate to be able to do that. And just today, outside of our due diligence on that package, we just had Pioneer file 20 new permits on 27% of that acreages.
So what is a new permit? If the state applies for a new, or the oil companies apply for a new permit, what do you mean by that?
So what the producers will do, they'll go in, they have to file for the right to drill on those particular acres. So that's where they file a permit. To get to that process, they've already spent between $1 million, $2 million just to get to that process. So that guarantees you that schedule for drilling is going to be front and center.
Questions?
All right, we
Questions?
got one
Keep-
more here. Go ahead.
And Jim, tell me how much time we have. I don't know. Oh, not much. Okay.
So I have two questions. So what is the tax advantage?
Okay.
And then also, when you receive your payments, is it ordinary income, or how does it come out when you get your statements at the end of the year?
Sure. So if you use a self-directed IRA, obviously, it does come in what I'm going to label as tax-free as of today, right? If it's a Roth, it really, truly can be tax-free. If it's a traditional IRA, it is just pre-tax.
It's outside of your IRA.
Yeah, but outside of your IRA, it is considered just passive income, right, on a 1099. You also, though, because you're not doing anything for it, only 85% of the overall gains you have is even taxable. So you hear people say, well, you get a 15% like depletion allowance. What they mean by that is, 15% of the income you make won't be taxed, whereas the other 85% is. So it's kind of nice. So guys, just because I know that we're already kind of behind on time and things like that, I really want to just stress for a minute that there's a reason I chose to switch careers. I worked at, honestly, and I'm going to just say it, the best retirement custodian out there. If you guys don't have an account with Quest Trust Company, you need to set one up
Go ahead and
immediately.
clap. I see Quincy's clapping.
Yeah.
I agree, Quincy.
Every speaker has come up here and mentioned something about Quest, okay? I was an officer of the company. My dad and uncle are the owners of the company. And I chose to take a different career path because I got tired of managing all your guys' funds. I'm serious. Right? I love the fact that I was able to become an investor. I love the fact that I was able to take a different career path and make my own choices. And I love the fact that I'm able to work with such a great high-end company and make money in a different way for my wife and I. It really has changed our lives. If you choose to be a partner with Eckerd, you're not an investor. You're not investing in a fund. You're not investing in a limited partnership or an LLC. No, they call you a partner because you're buying an acre and they also are owning the same investment you are. They take on the same risk. They get the same reward you do. They're not going to put up their money if they don't think it's worth it. All I ask is you guys scan that QR code or send me a text. That is my direct line. If you want to sit down with a private conversation with me or a real oil and gas expert, all right? Because that is not me. That's that dude
Good
over there.
opportunity.
All right? So that's it, Jim. I'll leave it to you because I know you're already kind of behind on schedule and stuff.
No,
So.
I appreciate that.